The courtroom camera captured the exact second Karen Whitmore made the biggest mistake of her life. She leaned forward in her chair, diamonds shining under the courtroom lights, a designer handbag resting beside her like it was evidence of power, and with a calm, arrogant smile, she looked straight at Judge Judy and said, "Sweetheart, you're here to serve justice, which means you serve people like me." For 1 second, the entire courtroom froze. No one coughed, no one moved, no one even breathed. Maria Santos, the quiet former assistant sitting across from her, lifted one hand to her mouth in shock. The audience stared like they had just witnessed someone step directly into traffic. Even Karen's own lawyer lowered his head, because he knew exactly what had just happened. Karen Whitmore had not just insulted a judge. She had insulted Judge Judy. And Judge Judy did not shout. She did not bang the gavel. She did not lose control. She simply leaned back, narrowed her eyes, and smiled. That smile was more terrifying than anger, because anyone who had ever watched Judge Judy knew what that smile meant. Someone was about to be destroyed. But what made this moment even more unbelievable was that Karen's insult was only the beginning. Because in the next few minutes, Judge Judy would expose a pattern of lies, unpaid wages, fake lawsuits, and years of cruelty that Karen had hidden behind money, lawyers, and social status. Karen had entered that courtroom believing she was untouchable. She would leave it crying, begging, and facing consequences she never thought could reach her. And it all began with one woman who simply asked to be paid. Maria Santos was not rich. She was not powerful. She did not arrive in court with expensive lawyers or designer clothes. She arrived with a folder of documents, trembling hands, and 3 years of pain that no one had listened to before. For 3 years, Maria had worked as Karen Whitmore's personal assistant. At first, the job sounded like a blessing. Karen lived in a beautiful Connecticut estate. She moved in wealthy circles. She promised good pay, steady work, and opportunities that Maria believed could help her support her family. Maria was hard-working, respectful, and careful. She answered calls. She organized schedules. She handled errands. She managed appointments. She worked late nights and early mornings. She did what she was asked, even when the requests became unreasonable. But very quickly, Maria learned the truth. Karen did not want an assistant. She wanted someone she could control. Maria was expected to answer messages at midnight. She was expected to pick up dry cleaning, walk dogs, organize closets, clean rooms, and handle personal tasks that had nothing to do with her job. If Karen forgot something, Maria was blamed. If Karen was in a bad mood, Maria became the target. And still, Maria stayed because she needed the paycheck. She had rent. She had family responsibilities. She had people depending on her. So she swallowed the disrespect, kept her head down, and told herself that hard work would eventually be enough. But for Karen Whitmore, hard work was never enough. Karen was born into money. She had spent her entire life surrounded by people who treated her name like a key that opened every door. Her grandfather had made a fortune in real estate. Her family trust allowed her to live without ever holding a real job. She had grown up in private schools, country clubs, and luxury homes where staff members were expected to smile no matter how they were treated. To Karen, money was not just comfort. Money was authority. It meant rules could bend. It meant problems could disappear. It meant people without money could be pushed, threatened, or ignored. And over the years, Karen had learned how to use that power. She went through personal assistants quickly. Some lasted months, some lasted weeks, a few lasted only days. The pattern was always the same. Karen would demand more than the job required. She would delay payments. She would insult them, overwork them, and when they finally complained, she would fire them. Then came the threats, a lawyer's letter, a fake claim, a lawsuit for damages. Most workers did not fight back. They could not afford to. That was how Karen won, not because she was right, because she was rich. Maria Santos was supposed to be another easy victim. But Maria made one decision Karen never expected. She kept proof. She saved text messages. She saved emails. She kept records of hours worked, payments missed, and late-night demands. She documented everything because deep down, she knew one day Karen might try to twist the truth. That day came on a Tuesday afternoon. Maria's paycheck was already 2 weeks late. She had waited patiently. She had asked politely. But now rent was due, and she could not wait anymore, so she stood in Karen's home and said, "Mrs. Whitmore, I need my paycheck today. I worked those hours. You agreed to pay me every 2 weeks." Karen barely looked up from her phone. "You'll get it when I feel like writing the check." Maria's heart pounded, but she stayed calm. I'm sorry, but I need to be paid. I have bills. I have rent. That was the moment Karen's face changed. To Karen, Maria had crossed a line. Not because she was rude, not because she was wrong, but because she had acted like a person with rights. Karen fired her on the spot. When Maria asked for her final wages, Karen's voice turned cold. You'll get nothing, and I'll make sure you regret speaking to me like that. 3 days later, Maria received the lawsuit. Karen claimed Maria had damaged the custom leather interior of her Mercedes in a fit of rage after being fired. The amount was $15,000. Maria was stunned. She had never damaged the car. She had never even driven the car. But Karen's accusation was written in official legal language, and that was the point. Karen did not need the story to be true. She only needed Maria to be scared. But Maria did not disappear. She fought back. And somehow the case ended up in front of Judge Judy. From the moment Karen walked into the courtroom, she acted like the place belonged to her. She adjusted her expensive jacket. She placed her designer handbag where the cameras could see it. She looked around with the bored expression of someone forced to wait in a line she believed was beneath her. Judge Judy noticed everything. She noticed the arrogance. She noticed the performance. She noticed the way Karen looked at Maria, not like a former employee, but like a servant who had forgotten her place. When the case began, Judge Judy's voice was sharp and direct. Ms. Whitmore, you are suing your former assistant for $15,000. Tell me what happened. Karen sat up straight, ready for her performance. Your Honor, this is very simple. I employed Miss Santos as my personal assistant. It was a position of trust. Unfortunately, she became unreliable, disrespectful, and incompetent. When I terminated her employment, she became hysterical. The next day, I discovered my Mercedes had been damaged. Judge Judy listened without expression. Do you have photographs of the damage? Karen blinked. My attorney submitted paperwork. Do you have photographs? Karen shifted slightly. I believe there were estimates. Do you have proof that Miss Santos damaged your car? Karen gave a small laugh, as if the question itself offended her. Your Honor, I am a respected woman. I have no reason to lie about something like this. The courtroom became very still. Judge Judy repeated the words slowly. You have no reason to lie. Karen smiled. That's correct. Then Judge Judy turned to Maria. Miss Santos, your response. Maria took a deep breath. Her voice was quiet, steady. Your Honor, I worked for Mrs. Whitmore for 3 years. I was not incompetent. I was not unreliable. I worked long hours, sometimes 60 or 70 hours a week. I answered her messages at night. I did things outside my job because I was afraid of losing the work. She fired me because I asked for my paycheck. Karen rolled her eyes. Maria continued. She owed me 2 weeks of pay, plus final wages. When I asked, she told me I would get nothing. Then she filed this lawsuit. I never damaged her car. I never drove her car. Her voice cracked. I just wanted to be paid for my work. For a moment there was silence. Then Karen muttered, loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Oh please, the Victim Act. Judge Judy's head snapped toward her. Excuse me? Karen sat back, annoyed. I'm just saying, Your Honor, this is predictable. Disgruntled employees always have a story. The audience gasped softly. Judge Judy leaned forward. Did you just mock this woman while she was testifying? Karen sighed. I'm only trying to move this along. We all have better things to do than listen to sob stories from people who don't understand consequences. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. Consequences. Karen nodded, still unaware of the trap forming around her. Yes, actions have consequences. Judge Judy leaned back. That is a very interesting statement, Ms. Whitmore. Her voice became calm, too calm. Tell me something. How did you treat Miss Santos during her employment? Karen smiled like the answer was obvious. I treated her like staff. Firmly, with clear expectations. People in service positions need boundaries. Judge Judy's eyebrow lifted. Service positions, Karen continued. Yes, assistants, housekeepers, gardeners, people like that. If you don't keep structure, they start thinking they're equal. The room went silent. Even Karen's attorney closed his eyes. Judge Judy asked, You don't believe Miss Santos is your equal? Karen laughed lightly. Your Honor, let's be realistic. She was my assistant. She provided services. I paid for those services. That was the relationship. Judge Judy's fingers tapped once against the bench. So people who work for you are beneath you. Karen tilted her head. Not beneath, just different. There are people who lead, and there are people who serve. That's how society works. Judge Judy stared at her. And what is my role here, Ms. Whitmore? Karen smiled. Well, you serve justice, which means you serve the public. Technically, you are a civil servant. No one moved. Karen leaned forward, growing more confident. I mean, sweetheart, you're here to serve justice, which means you serve people like me. The courtroom exploded in shock. Maria's hand covered her mouth. Karen's lawyer looked down at the table, but Judge Judy did not explode. She smiled. Then she reached for a folder. Ms. Whitmore, she said quietly, since you believe people should know their place, let me educate you about yours. Karen's smile faded. Judge Judy opened the folder. You claim Miss Santos damaged your Mercedes on the day she was fired. Yes, Karen said, but her voice was less confident now. Judge Judy looked at the document in front of her. According to vehicle records, you sold that Mercedes 3 months before Miss Santos was fired. Karen froze. The audience stirred. Judge Judy continued. The car you claim was damaged did not belong to you at the time this alleged incident happened. Karen's mouth opened. There must be some mistake. I have several vehicles. No, Judge Judy said. There is no mistake. She lifted another page. The repair estimate you submitted is for a different vehicle. A vehicle purchased after Miss Santos was terminated. Karen's face began to lose color. Judge Judy's voice sharpened. You filed a false claim. Karen shook her head. No, Your Honor, I must have mixed up the dates. Judge Judy cut her off. You did not mix up anything. You created a lawsuit to punish this woman for asking to be paid. Karen's attorney began flipping through papers, clearly seeing the problem for the first time. But Judge Judy was not finished. In fact, Ms. Whitmore, this is not the first time you have done this. Karen stopped breathing. Judge Judy turned another page. Over the last 15 years, there have been multiple disputes involving former assistants, contractors, and service workers. The pattern is very clear. They request payment, you terminate them. Then you threaten or sue them for damages. The courtroom murmured. Karen whispered, those were legitimate. Judge Judy's voice rose just enough to silence the room. Do not insult my intelligence. Karen sank back into her chair. Judge Judy continued. You used your money and your lawyers to frighten people who could not afford to fight you. You counted on their fear. You counted on their silence. But Miss Santos kept records. Maria sat still, tears forming in her eyes. Judge Judy looked at Karen with complete disgust. You came into this courtroom believing your handbag, your family name, and your attitude would protect you. They will not. Karen's hand started shaking. Your Honor, please, I can explain. Judge Judy leaned forward. Explain what? Explain how you sued a woman over a car she never touched. Explain how you demanded $15,000 based on a vehicle you no longer owned. Explain how you mocked her pain and then called me a servant in my own courtroom. Karen's eyes filled with tears. The arrogance was gone. The woman who had walked in like royalty was now trembling under the weight of the truth. Judge Judy gave her ruling. Your claim is dismissed. Miss Santos is awarded $15,000 for unpaid wages, damages, and costs connected to this fraudulent lawsuit. Karen gasped. No, please. Judge Judy raised one hand. I am not finished. The room fell silent again. I am forwarding this information for further review. When someone uses the legal system to intimidate workers and file false claims, that is not a misunderstanding. That is abuse. Karen began to cry openly. Please, Your Honor, don't do that. I'll pay her. I'll pay everything. Just please don't send anything. Judge Judy looked at her with no sympathy. Now you want mercy. Karen sobbed. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean what I said. Judge Judy's voice became cold. You meant every word. You simply did not expect anyone to hold you accountable for it. The gavel came down. Case dismissed. Karen collapsed forward, crying into her hands. The diamonds on her fingers shook. Her perfect makeup ran down her face. The designer clothes that had once made her look powerful now made her look ridiculous. Maria Santos remained seated, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. For the first time in years, someone had listened. For the first time in years, Karen's money had not been enough. The bailiff moved toward Karen as she tried to stand, but she could barely walk. Her voice broke as she whispered again and again, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the apology came too late. Because Karen was not sorry when Maria needed her paycheck. She was not sorry when she filed the lawsuit. She was not sorry when she mocked Maria in court. She became sorry only when consequences finally reached her. And that was the lesson everyone in that courtroom understood. Respect does not belong only to the rich. Dignity is not something people earn by having money. A worker is not less human because they serve, assist, clean, drive, organize, or answer phones. Maria Santos had been treated like she was invisible, but in that courtroom the truth made her impossible to ignore. When the episode aired, the moment spread everywhere. Viewers replayed Karen's insult, Judge Judy's smile, the folder opening, and the exact second Karen realized she was finished. People did not just watch it because it was dramatic. They watched it because so many understood Maria's pain. Workers everywhere knew what it felt like to be talked down to be underpaid, to be threatened by someone with more money. To be treated like speaking up was disrespect. That was why the moment hit so hard. Karen Whitmore became the face of entitlement. Maria Santos became the face of quiet strength. And Judge Judy reminded everyone that a courtroom is not a country club, justice is not for sale, and no amount of money can protect a liar from the truth forever. Karen walked in believing she was above consequences. She walked out knowing she was not. She called Judge Judy a servant, but in the end, she was the one begging. And Maria, the woman she tried to break, walked out with her head held high. Justice was not loud, it was not complicated, it came through documents, truth, patience, and one judge who refused to be impressed by wealth. Karen Whitmore thought she could use the court to crush someone weaker than her. Instead, she exposed herself, and the moment she said, "You serve people like me," she unknowingly handed Judge Judy the perfect opportunity to prove one thing. No one is above accountability, not the rich, not the powerful, not the entitled. And definitely not someone foolish enough to disrespect Judge Judy in her own courtroom.